Fuck you looking at, fat boy?
The film begins with a group of school bullies, led by a student named Miles, who terrorize weaker students for fun. Their main target is Jimmy Mulligan, a kind and chubby boy who quietly endures the abuse without ever fighting back. By his side are his loyal friends, Andy and Bobby, who, like Jimmy, are labeled losers by their tormentors. Over time, the relentless mockery and humiliation from Miles begin to chip away at Jimmy's resilience, pushing him closer to his breaking point. Jimmy's mother sensed something was off, but he kept his struggles to himself, never revealing what he faced after school. Though his friends often invited him out, he always declined, wary of encountering Miles, the neighborhood bully. Still, avoiding trouble wasn't enough. One morning, on the way to school with his friends, Jimmy crossed paths with Miles and his gang. Miles brazenly demanded $100, a sum Jimmy couldn't possibly pay. His attempt to explain only escalated the tension, making the situation even worse. Miles grew more aggressive, relentlessly demanding the $100 and threatening Jimmy to stay silent. But before things could spiral further, he noticed Vinny watching from a distance. Known for his strength, courage, and influential connections, Vinny had a zero-tolerance stance on bullying. His presence alone was enough to make even the boldest bullies hesitate, and Miles knew better than to push his luck under Vinny's watchful eye. Besides tormenting Jimmy, Miles often targeted Bobby for his slightly feminine style. After publicly humiliating him in class, Bobby was left shaken, and Jimmy tried to lift his spirits, expressing his own growing frustration with the constant bullying. Later, he treated Andy and Bobby to lunch in the cafeteria. As they sat together, Andy and Bobby were taken aback by how eagerly Jimmy dug into his food, finishing large portions with unusual enthusiasm. Andy and Bobby never mocked Jimmy for his appetite. Instead, they supported him and even tried to set him up with Adrienne, a girl from school who often glanced at Jimmy with genuine interest during lunch. Just as things started to feel normal, Miles showed up again, sat beside Jimmy, and resumed pressuring him for the $100. When another student, fed up with the harassment, told Miles to back off, Miles responded with loud insults, targeting the student and filling the cafeteria with tension. Another student, bigger and stronger than Miles, finally stepped in to stop his antics, causing Miles to drop his tough act and retreat from the cafeteria. But later that day, Miles confronted Jimmy again, still demanding money. This time, Jimmy refused to back down, insisting he owed nothing. Enraged by Jimmy's defiance, Miles lashed out and attacked him on the sidewalk. Just as Miles was about to deliver the final blow, an older man intervened, threatening to call the police and forcing Miles to flee. The man, who introduced himself as Mr. Action, offered to take Jimmy home and help treat his injuries. At his house, Jimmy noticed a photo of a boxer and was surprised to learn Mr. Action was once a national champion. Eager to stand up to Miles, Jimmy begged him for training. Though unable to coach directly due to his age, Mr. Action agreed to connect Jimmy with friends who could help. After bringing Jimmy home, Mr. Action explained the situation to his shocked parents and recommended self-defense training. Though hesitant at first, they asked for time to consider. A few days later, Mr. Action opened his door to find Jimmy with bruises on both eyes. Realizing how serious things had become, Jimmy's parents gratefully agreed to the training. They even accompanied him to Manny's Boxing Training Center, run by Mr. Action's trusted friend, to ensure he got proper guidance. Mr. Action asked Manny to help Jimmy learn to defend himself, and after hearing a brief summary, Manny quickly grasped the situation. Impressed by Jimmy's resilience despite the abuse he'd faced, Manny agreed on the condition that Jimmy commit fully to the training. Under Manny's strict regimen and Mr. Action's watchful eye, Jimmy trained regularly. During one session, he confided in Mr. Action about Miles repeatedly demanding $100, strengthening Mr. Action's resolve to help Jimmy grow strong enough to stand up for himself. Mr. Action came up with a plan. Jimmy would offer Miles $200, but only if given a month to prepare. He believed that with a month of serious training, Jimmy could stand up to Miles and avoid paying anything. The next day, when Miles demanded the money, Jimmy told him he'd started a part-time job and could pay $200 in a month. Though reluctant, Miles agreed, giving Jimmy the time he needed and easing the immediate pressure. For the first time in a while, Jimmy was free from Miles' constant demands. Yet during that afternoon's boxing session, he moved sluggishly and lacked energy. Though he blamed fatigue, Manny, experienced and observant, recognized it wasn't physical but emotional exhaustion. Concerned, he confronted Jimmy, sensing his heart wasn't fully in the training. On the way home, Mr. Action asked why Jimmy seemed so down. Jimmy admitted he felt exhausted and discouraged, doubting whether all his training had made any difference. He still felt powerless against Miles. Sensing his frustration, Mr. Action reassured him that no effort was ever wasted, reminding him that the discipline and lessons learned through hard work would stay with him win or lose. Noticing Jimmy's declining health, his father didn't pressure him, but left the decision to continue training up to him. Still, he expressed a hope that one day, Jimmy would be strong enough to teach his own children how to defend themselves. His words reignited Jimmy's determination, pushing him to train harder and take his efforts more seriously than ever before. The next day, Miles and his gang targeted Jimmy and his friends again, going too far by beating Bobby in front of a crowd. Jimmy rushed to comfort his friend, who sat crying and defeated, feeling powerless against the bullies. But Jimmy, now resolute, told him he had a plan to defeat Miles and end the bullying for good. Excited and determined, Jimmy rushed home, jumped on his bike, and rode alone to Manny's boxing gym despite usually relying on Mr. Action for the long trip. Mr. Action was thrilled by Jimmy's renewed energy. In his haste, Jimmy accidentally bumped into Manny and fell, but instead of being upset, Manny was impressed by his passion. Recognizing Jimmy's progress, he stepped up the training with tougher exercises and mixed martial arts techniques to build a more well-rounded fighter. Meanwhile, Mr. Action focused on strengthening Jimmy's mindset, offering constant support and motivation. At school, Jimmy confided in Andy about his boxing training and planned to defeat Miles. Soon after, Adrian approached him, and the two quickly bonded. They attended a party together, where their conversations revealed a strong connection. As the evening unfolded, they decided to start a romantic relationship. As Jimmy enjoyed his budding relationship with Adrian, Eddie, one of Miles' friends, began mocking them both. But unlike before, Jimmy, now confident, stood his ground and quickly shut Eddie down. Time passed, and the day finally came for Jimmy to confront Miles this time, ready to end the bullying once and for all. That morning, Jimmy woke up filled with confidence and determination. At school, Miles immediately confronted him, threatening his friends if he backed out of their agreement. Jimmy ducked into the bathroom where he ran into Vinny, who had heard about the upcoming fight and offered encouragement. Miles saw that his threats no longer scared him and devised a new plan using Glassjaw to take Jimmy down. Vinny intervened by having his associates kidnap Glassjaw, forcing Miles to face Jimmy one-on-one. At first, Jimmy struggled against Miles' powerful blows but refused to give up. Gradually, he fought back, landing solid punches of his own. Even after taking a hit to the face, he stood firm, no longer the weak, timid boy he once was. Driven by determination, Jimmy fought not just for himself, but for everyone who couldn't. As Miles grew desperate, his friends prepared to step in, but Andy and Bobby stood aside, refusing to interfere. Together, they had chosen to stand up to the bully. The fight intensified, but in the end, Miles was defeated. Jimmy then confronted him, demanding he stop tormenting everyone at school, not just him or his friends. Though Miles showed no remorse, Mr. Action, watching from afar, felt immense pride. Jimmy hadn't just won the fight, he had reclaimed his strength and inner resilience. Mr. Action saw that Jimmy still carried a deep sense of compassion, even if he hadn't fully realized it himself. Footage of the confrontation quickly spread across social media, drawing widespread attention. The video went viral, eventually reaching a local TV station. Jimmy's stand against the bullying became a trending story, earning him admiration from the community for his courage and resilience. Jimmy's parents were filled with pride, seeing their son finally stand tall, free from the grip of bullying. The film closes with Jimmy, Andy, Bobby, and Adrian walking through school with newfound confidence, no longer invisible but respected. With the bullies defeated, the once overlooked students had become a symbol of quiet strength. The story ends with a powerful reminder: never underestimate those who seem weak. They often possess the greatest strength of all.